Hey Internet, Harris here, and I've been holding on to these two phones for a while now. For this comparison, this is the Note 9 versus 10s Max, the biggest screen offerings from both of these manufacturers. In this video, I want to compare these two big screen phones and compare the experience, not the specs, between them to decide which one might be right for you. And big shout out to Rhino Shield for help making this video possible with their normal style and bumper cases that are some of the most customizable and protective on the market. We'll talk about that later on. Objectively, only one of these phones takes advantage of that bigger screen. The Note 9, as pretty typical on Android, features split screen app support, picture-in-picture, and more. Think of how many times you've been copying over code or information from one app and had to constantly switch back and forth, at least if you're an iOS user, and tons of other scenarios like that. Even as big and beautiful as the screen is on the XS Max, you can truly only take advantage of one app. It's a bit like on the iPad before multitasking was brought over a couple years ago. The iPhone desperately lacks in that. The Note 9 also has the S Pen, which I struggle to find a consistent use case scenario for, but perhaps for jotting down quick notes on the lock screen or using it as a camera shutter or PowerPoint clicker, which is now a new feature. I've also made a video about how you can use this as a note machine for school. Not the most practical, but possible. You can check out that video in the description. The Note 9 also features the option to use fingerprint or facial scanning to unlock, which is great for those who occasionally miss the fingerprint scanner from older iPhones, such as myself, and then USB-C that allows for docking into a monitor for use as a makeshift desktop, or plugging in accessories such as a mouse and keyboard for games and more. Plus fast charging and faster wireless charging, the Note 9 really seems to kill the XS Max in terms of big screen features and optimizations. But there's also a couple smaller experience points that you get with Samsung devices or Android devices in general. Samsung Pay is much more universal. You can use it at just about any reader. You can pay with your credit card at just about any store with this, whereas this requires Apple Pay if you want to pay for things using a mobile payment. So that is very handy with this. Additionally, you get an always-on display, and with USB-C, you can use the same connector from maybe your laptop or your tablet you can use to charge this, whereas this is now Lightning, which is not compatible with the newest Macs and the newest iPad. And don't forget the headphone jack, which isn't important to me as a wireless audio user, but for some it absolutely is, and the Note 9 has that. While I find the Note 9 a striking device, the color options are nice and the hardware is very solid, the camera module looks just a little bit robotic and a little bit inelegant, although it doesn't stick out as much as the iPhone's camera does. But something I like better about the iPhone is that it is a slightly wider device, but it is shorter. It's a decent amount shorter than the Note 9, which I prefer for my pockets. It's easier to put a slightly wider but shorter phone into my pockets than a phone that is as tall as the Note 9. But the Note 9 is easier to reach side to side, but not top and bottom. So it's preference, but I like the wider and shorter phone and not the taller Note 9. Now a quick 20 seconds from the sponsor. Rhino Shield is honestly the only case I've used so far for my Note 9 and XS Max. The Mod and Crash Guard NX cases allow you to customize the frame and button colors as well as the back material, while the Solid Suit is a full case that comes in 11 finishes depending on your device, and they all have 11 feet of drop protection. Link and coupon code in the description. Reachability on the iPhone is intuitive and responsive, which does help getting across the screen, and facial scanning is going to be the most secure and reliable on any phone on the market. The mute switch is the best form of notification management on a smartphone, and the iPhone is likely to always be the most consistently responsive and snappy phone on the market due to tight software integration, something that Samsung's phone cannot pull off and claim as much with its Samsung bloatware, with its slow updates and things of that sort. Both phones are super fast, but the XS Max is going to hold up longer, get software updates sooner and longer, and of course, there's the issues of apps being higher quality on the iPhone, which is a big point that I brought up in my S9 versus 10 video. So many apps I use feel more thoughtful, optimized, and smoother to use on the iPhone. And there's just no other way to look at it. Things just seem more optimized on the iPhone. They don't feel so bland. And that's one of the biggest day-to-day experience differences between the phones. Both cameras will take pictures that are incredible. I'll give a bunch of samples here to compare both the regular lens and the 2x lens, portrait, and then finally front and rear video to get a sense for yourself. But the moral of the story here is that either phone is going to be very good for pictures. Unless you're somebody that really knows what you're looking at, you're not going to care that much about the differences between them because they're so good. is some front-facing video from the Note 9 and the 10s Max. One advantage is that the Note 9 does record in 1440p, whereas the 10s Max maxes out at 1080p. You can also see the field of view difference. And finally, the Note 9 allows for a very quick double click of the power button to get into the camera, something you can't do quite as quickly from your iPhone. Not a huge deal, but something to make note of. Battery life was surprisingly good on both of these devices. The iPhone XS Max gets me through a full day most of the time. If I'm using it a lot, a little bit less, but as I have been tending to use it less and less during the school year, it definitely makes me through the full day, and I like that about the phone. The Note 9 is also pretty nice with that, and with fast wireless charging and fast charging, and it's very easy to top up quickly. Of course, the Note 9 came bundled with a ton of accessories if you pre-ordered it, and it has an SD card if you want to add storage later on, and you can get it for much cheaper, and prices go down very quickly on these devices, so you can generally find one pretty discounted early on, whereas the iPhone is going to stay at its exact price for its entire first year, but the resale value will be higher on the iPhone than it will on the Note, which is something to factor in. But something to know is that the iPhone is going to be expensive, storage upgrades are pricey, whereas the Note you can have very cheap SD card expansion. Both are great phones, both have their advantages, and the iPhone XS Max definitely has a lot of room to grow, and it needs to grow in terms of large screen phones. At the end of the day, these both have their pros and cons. The Note 9 is an incredible device, and it has a lot more features that I wish the iPhone had, but the app experience and the iOS continuity is still something that is rock solid on the iPhone, and that is why I am using it as my daily driver personally, but I can see why you might want something like the Note 9 if you just want all the utility that it brings. Let me know which device you prefer in a civil discussion in the comments. Don't get hurt if somebody disagrees with your opinion, it's okay. Thank you for watching, and make sure you check out Rhino Shield in the description.